All right, how's everyone doing out there? It's the engineer. We're on episode 3 right now, and I want everybody to do one thing out there for me, man, right now. Everybody that's down with Brighter Light Studios, I want you to turn on your lightsaber, man. All right, because this right here is what it's all about. Creating a higher vibrational frequency, man. Getting in synchronicity with that frequency from the center of that galactic sun, man. That Milky Rift. You know what I'm saying? Now, a lot of people would say to me, engineer, why is it that you guys are gonna rock so hard, man? And I've been trying to cover exactly what it is that we're gonna be doing down here at the Brighter Light Studios. But before we can get into the entertainment, once again, we got to cover the groundwork a little bit here. So let's get back into Nibiru, Planet X. Okay, Planet X, Nibiru. We're gonna wrap up the last series and kind of cover that. Okay. I don't know if you guys remember last time I promised that I was gonna get a little bit more into the basic math that goes into this thing here. Okay. So let's do that. Let's get into the basic mathematics and to the operational theory here. Okay. I don't know if you guys recall last time we were discussing basic sacred geometry and stuff like that, and dimensions. Okay, now let's plug that together. This gets into Nibiru, so you got to pay attention. All right. On the zero dimension, we have what's known as a point. The first dimension is a line. Okay. The second dimension is a plane. The third dimension is a cube. The fourth dimension is a tesseract. All right. Now, to go on to spirit, vibration, and theories, you have to start next getting into the platonic solids. But before we do that, okay, we're going to kind of get a little bit more into the dimensions themselves. Okay. Now, as you know, we're in the third dimension. Now, the difference between the third dimension and the second dimension is that we have a new dimension, and that dimension would be depth, because as you know, first dimension, zero is a point. All it can know is itself. There's no up, there's no down, there's no left, there's no right. There's just a knowledge of what it is that I am. The second, the first dimension after the zero dimension is a line. It's an infinite series of points. Now you're introduced to direction. There's a left and a right, but there's no forward and backwards. So a line would be alien to the dimension of a plane, which now you have forwards and backwards. Okay. Now in the third dimension, which is what we're in, we have depth. Okay. The third dimension is governed by mass, volume, and gravity. Emotions connected therein usually deal with self-esteem, worth, and sharing with others. The fourth dimension is governed by love and conflict resolution. Okay. Now, we're trying to raise people's vibrational frequency because we want to create a synchronicity with the symphony that is the universe. And a lot of people might say out there they don't really understand what I'm talking about. And I would say, well, the universe is like a synchronized symphony that sounds and resounds and creates with words, chords, and songs. Because when you start getting into subatomic particles, okay, the quarks, the neutrinos, the atoms, the neutrons, the protons, the electrons, the lemons, the sparkles and all that stuff, right? When you really break it down, they start to analyze, what is it that differentiates these particles, and what they come up with is that basically all these particles are spheroid particles that contain lines that are vibrating on a certain vibrational frequency in a harmonic resonance. And those chords or those notes that those subatomic particles sing or resonate with is what differentiates one subatomic particle to the next. So that's when you start getting into string theory, which differentiates all subatomic particles with vibrations. Okay, a string is one-dimensional and contains only length. Remember, dimensions, right? So that's the first dimension. See how this plugs in? A string is a one-dimensional construct that contains only length, vibrating and either open or circularly attached. Now, notice these vibrating strings that create these subatomic particles are then attached to a two-dimensional sheet or construct plane called brains, ironically, but not Brain, it's Branes. Interesting stuff. Okay? Now, also, when we start dealing with these particles, we have to get into the basic laws of the universe. We want to understand the laws that govern our greater universe so that we can have a grasp on this thing. Put my lightsaber away here. So, what we wind up dealing with here is 4 universal forces. The first, electromagnetic force. The second, the strong nuclear force. The third, the weak nuclear force. The fourth, gravity. And the fifth, scientists are still trying to establish what this fifth element is. But they know that it is a construct, but they have as of yet been able to define it. It is related to what is called dark space or dark matter, which comprises the larger part of our universe. Ironically, I believe we're less than 0.00 something percent of the solid matter in the universe. The greater matter in the universe is actually the dark matter, which is pushing the galaxies apart at an ever-expanding rate, and also created the Big Bang. All right? So we can say, for lack of a better term, that we are in search of the fifth universal force, dark matter. Well, not just antimatter, but dark matter, which expands the universe, is the greatest of all the forces, yet theorists are left still trying to define this black power. They say that a Nobel Prize can go to whoever can define this element. Allow me to dabble for a moment. God is known as the great, what? I am. God is known as the great I am. And ironically, if you write I am in Hebrew, the characters form a fiery little man. It's very interesting. Also, when we start getting to the sacred geometry of how he created the universe, starting out as a point, do you mind if I substitute that point as an I? That's what the Egyptians used to substitute as spirit. Okay? Now, you remember I said the first step is to create that space, because it said God was really unable to define himself. He knew who he was, but he had nothing to compare himself to. No depth, no height, no width. He could fly in any direction, run in any direction as long as he wanted, but it's like he's not going anywhere. So he has to create space. Well, as you know, spirit's perfect. So that first creation of space and the awareness of itself, in relevance to space, allegedly probably took place at approximately 360 degrees. So what you have here, I don't know if you guys can see this, is, I know it's kind of cheesy, but it's kind of like a point in the middle of a circle, and that point is shaped like an eye, and that would be the first step, a circle with a point inside of it, and that point would be that spirit. Now, as you know, as the spirit begins to explore its space, it moves in straight, perfect lines, because spirit can't make mistakes. So its first objective after creating that space would be to define that space and to move from the center of that space to the parameter of that space in a perfect geometrical line. Now, that first step from the center to the parameter, forming that first line, at the edge of that space, what would that spirit do? It would create another space. Now, when you have that space, I don't know if you guys can see this, space creating another space here, creates a new space in between those two spaces, which is known as the vesica Pisces. It kind of forms an I shape. Ironically, the vesica Pisces, or I, it contains a lot of information. Okay? A wealth of information contained within this I shape about width, length, depth, proportion, the square root of 2, 3, and 5, which can go on forever. And because spirit is perfect, it moves flawlessly in the next straight line to produce another sphere. So after a while, you have like a series of interlocked, overlaying spheres and stuff. Now, I know you guys are like, now how does this get back to the vibrational theory? We're going to get to this. Okay? And the first day of creation is like, first day, God said what? Let there be light. Ironically, within Vesic Pisces is the basic alchemical information on how to create light. And also would be the first step of creation would be able to see yourself within that space. So now we have the Vesic Pisces or the eye, the real ones, I guess. Okay. All right, and at the end of 6 days, you have the completion of what can be created within that central nucleus of creation perfectly, which would be 6 overlaying circles, which form one enclosed structure, which ironically looks like the last stage of an embryonic, I believe, zygote, or is it a cluster of cells before it starts to become an embryo, before it starts to develop organs. And it also looks like the basic structure to an atom, too. Right? Now I know you guys are like, now TJ, where are you going with this? We're kind of lost here. Where are you going with this? Now, my notes are a little disorganized today, but I'm trying to make sure I'm going in the right direction too, guys. So hold on one second. All right. Now, so far, touch for time here. We got about 5 minutes here, guys. So I apologize for this. We're gonna probably have to move this into the next show. What we have here is we've covered the feminine shape of creation, which, as you know, uses all curves. But we haven't covered the male aspect here. Now, ironically, when you connect these geometrical points and vertices together with linear structure, what you start to get is very interesting. With the female structure, it looks like I believe, an 8-petal flower. The male structure forms what's known as a hypercube. Well, anyway, guys, for lack of a better term, let's just say that we fuse these two sciences together, because you can't just use your left or your right brain if you want to rock out, right? I mean, you got to put them together, right? So you got your left and your right together. You got your male and your female. You got your curved and your linear together. You put them together mathematically. You put that first square together with that first circle, and what you start to get is the platonic solids. Okay, we're getting to the frequencies. Don't worry, guys. All right. Now, okay, the platonic solids occur when you combine straight lines with these circles. You get exactly only 5 planar, 3-dimensional objects that can have all corners touch the circle evenly and have every plane of its surface be geometrically even. All right. All edges have the same length. All right. The shapes are tetrahedron, or fire element, hexahedron, earth element, which essentially is a cube, octahedron, air element, dodecahedron, ether, prana or tachyon energy, which also is kind of connected to 0-point technology, but we're going to get to that later. Notice these overlaying terminologies: point, 0, terminology. Okay. All right. And anyway, guys, this is where we start to get into vibrational frequencies, because what happens here is that we're not vibrating with the correct harmonic resonance. And guys, I wish I could condense more, but I'm really pressed for time. I only have like 2 minutes left, so I really got to rock hard here. All right. We got like the Earth is a circle. As you know, the circle contains all platonic solids. So as a result, we do have a series of geometric matrices which overlay the Earth with what is called ley lines. And the Earth essentially is a geodesic crystalline structure, which vibrates, resounds with, and stores etheric data within this crystalline structure, which is amazing, because a lot of people are like, we're in a grid? I don't see the matrix. Anyway, guys, make a long story short, if people like me and you can put out enough positive vibrational frequencies, hopefully we can recharge this grid to form a force field that will protect us from some of the worst elements that could have come towards this earth in history. But in order to do that, we got to put our love field back up. Now, we're going to have to rock hard over here, man. We're going to have to rock hard with knowledge, information, higher vibrations, frequencies, and everything, because we are trying to charge that grid. Okay, guys, I'm down to my last minute. I'm going to have to say goodbye, okay? But I want you guys to remember, rock hard. And don't forget, tune into the next episode of the internet.